The desert didn't usually look like this, angry, alive, roaring. Rice had driven this back road dozens of times, but tonight the sky felt closer, heavier, as if the clouds had descended to scrape across the earth. Wind whipped against the truck, rattling the windows like pebbles in a tin can, and sand spiraled in frantic circles across the highway. The radio crackled warnings that came too late. Flash flood alert. Visibility low. Avoid travel if possible. He should have listened. A spear of lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the desert in violent white. For a heartbeat, everything was frozen. Rocks, cactus, the trembling horizon. Then darkness slammed back down thicker than before. Rice tightened his grip on the wheel, jaw clenched, trying to see more than a few meters ahead. That was when he noticed a shape in the road. At first it was just a shadow, a heap of dark fabric or maybe a fallen branch. But as he rolled closer, his headlights flickered over something unmistakably human. He hit the brakes hard, skidding on the mud-slick road. The truck stopped sideways, engine growling like it wanted to escape the storm. Rice jumped out into the wind. Rain lashed his face and flooded his shoes instantly. "Hey, can you hear me?" he shouted, though his voice was swallowed by thunder. The figure wasn't moving. He knelt beside her, a woman, mid-20s maybe, drenched, trembling, and half buried in mud. Her long dark hair clung to her cheeks, and a beadwork bracelet glimmered faintly in the lightning flash. A horse lay a few meters away, breathing but unable to stand. The whole scene looked like it had been torn out of some old survival legend. "Hey, stay with me," Rice said, gently touching her shoulder. She flinched faintly at his hand, alive but barely conscious. Her eyes fluttered open, dark and clouded with pain. She whispered something too soft to hear, a blend of English and a language Rice didn't recognize. The words slipped away on the wind. He scanned her quickly. Torn sleeve, deep gash along her forearm, signs of a fall. She must have been thrown when the storm surged. Rice scooped her into his arms, surprised at how light she felt. She shivered violently as he carried her to the truck. "It's okay," he told her, though he wasn't sure it was. As he laid her across the passenger seat and slammed the door shut, the sky cracked again, and the road ahead disappeared under rushing water. Rice woke slowly, as if rising through layers of sand. The first thing he felt was warmth, unnatural, heavy, pressing. The second was the heat of a fire crackling close by. The third was the sharp awareness that someone was on top of him. His eyes snapped open. Above him, framed by the flickering firelight, was the same woman he had rescued from the storm. Her face hovered inches from his, expression hard but controlled, her breath warm against his cheek. Her long, rain-dark hair draped forward, casting shadows over her sharp cheekbones. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't confused. She was studying him, measuring him. Rice tried to sit up, but instantly felt the cold edge of something press against his throat. Not metal, but stone, smooth and deadly. A blade carved from obsidian, held with unwavering precision. "Don't move," she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her body. Her accent carried the rhythm of someone raised between worlds. English shaped by the sounds of her people. "You hit your head. You're weak. If you thrash, you'll make it worse." Rice froze. His heart hammered against his ribs, but the rest of him stayed perfectly still. Why are you on top of me?" His voice cracked embarrassingly. She didn't answer at first. Her gaze scanned his face, then flicked to the wound at his temple, something he hadn't even noticed yet. Blood crusted there, dark and sticky. "You passed out," she said finally. "Your body temperature was crashing. I didn't know if you'd wake up. So you climbed on me?" She exhaled, not quite a sigh, more a reluctant admission. "It was the only way to keep you warm. We're miles from shelter, the fire wasn't enough, and you were shaking." Her expression hardened slightly. "Where I'd come from, we don't let someone save us, only to watch them die." The blade lowered an inch, but she still didn't move off him. Rice swallowed. "Okay, that explains the warmth. But the knife?" Her jaw tightened. "Because when you woke, I didn't know what kind of man you were." Her eyes, dark and alert, held his without wavering. "Out here, caution keeps you alive." He couldn't argue with that. Outside the small makeshift shelter of rocks and branches she'd built, the storm had faded to distant grumbles. The desert night was cold, dangerous, unforgiving, but the heat between them was unmistakably real. Slowly, very slowly, she eased the blade away. "You're safe," she said quietly. "For now." For a long moment neither of them moved. The only sounds were the soft crackle of the fire and the distant drip of storm water rolling off the rocks. When the woman finally shifted off him, it wasn't abrupt or careless. She moved with deliberate control, as if every action had purpose. Rice drew a slow breath as the pressure lifted from his chest, but the warmth she'd left behind stayed like a ghost on his skin. She offered her hand. He hesitated, uncertain if the knife might return, but her expression had changed, less guarded, less hunted. "My name is Tyen," she said. Her voice was firm, but something gentler threaded through it now. "You carried me out of the flood. I owe you an explanation." Rice took her hand, letting her pull him into a sitting position. His vision spun a little, but steadied as he focused on her face. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I just did what anyone would have done." At that, something flickered in her eyes, a wry, almost sad glimmer. "Not anyone," she corrected softly. "Most people would have driven past. Storms make fear out of even good hearts." She sat across from him, legs folded beneath her, the obsidian blade now resting harmlessly at her side. The firelight danced across her features, strong jawline, high cheeks, and eyes that held both steel and softness. Her soaked clothes were drying by the flames, revealing a traditional woven sash wrapped around her waist, the pattern intricate and meaningful. Rice finally spoke. "When I woke up, you were on top of me. You said it was to keep me warm, but it was more than that," Tyen interrupted, not unkindly. She drew in a slow breath. "Where I come from, saving a life is not a simple act. It binds you, not with chains or debt, but with responsibility. My grandmother always said, a life given is a circle. You close it by giving life back." He let her words sink in. "So when you saw me collapse," he murmured, "you felt like you had to return the favor." "I didn't feel obligated," she corrected gently. "I chose to. You risked yourself for me without knowing who I was. That means something." Her gaze softened even more. "And keeping you warm was the fastest way to keep your spirit anchored." Rice blinked. "My spirit?" She nodded. "Cold takes more than the body. It pulls at the mind, at the will. I kept you close so you wouldn't drift." A shiver, not from the cold, ran down his spine. For the first time since the storm, Rice felt truly awake, and Tyen, watching him with a quiet strength, seemed to sense it. "Our lives touched in that water," she said. "Now the circle is closed." She didn't say it aloud, but Rice could tell something between them had only just begun. By the time dawn reached them, the storm had dissolved into a memory, its roar replaced by the soft hush of a desert, washed clean. Pale gold light spilled across the horizon, turning wet stones into splinters, of amber and tracing silver edges around the clouds drifting lazily overhead. The air smelled of rain-soaked sage and earth, sharp and fresh. Rice blinked awake, surprised by how warm he felt despite the cold night. The fire had burned low, but a blanket, woven with geometric patterns of reds, blacks and whites, had been draped over him. He didn't remember falling asleep. Tyen was gone. A flicker of worry surged through him, until he heard footsteps behind the rock shelter. She appeared a moment later, carrying his pack in one hand and a metal canteen in the other. Her hair, now dry, was braided neatly down her back. There was a calmness about her in daylight, still fierce but softened, grounded. "You're awake," she said, simply offering the canteen. "Drink, it's sage tea. Good for shock." Rice took it, the warmth seeping into his hands. "You fixed my pack," he noted. "It was torn when you fell. I stitched it." She nodded toward the horizon. "The road will be clear soon. You'll be able to go back." Something in his chest twisted. The idea of leaving felt abrupt, unfinished. "You're speaking like we're parting already," Rice said. Tyen paused, lowering herself to sit across from him. The fire crackled between them, tiny sparks flying into the brightening sky. "In my world," she began carefully, "some crossings are brief. People meet for a purpose, then walk different trails." Her eyes met his, dark, steady, unreadable but not cold. "Our purpose was survival. Rice shook his head slightly. I don't believe that's all it was. Her lips curved in a faint, knowing smile. Maybe not, but I cannot stay. My family will be searching. And you? She gestured at him with a small shrug. Your life pulls you somewhere else too. She stood brushing dust from her hands. At the edge of the clearing, her horse waited, injured the night before, now bandaged and awake, thanks to her quiet work while Rice slept. Diane placed a foot in the stirrup, then paused and looked back at him. In our stories, she said softly, those who share life in a storm are never strangers again. If our paths cross once more, it will be because they're meant to. Rice stepped forward, words caught in his throat. Will I see you again? She held his gaze for a long heartbeat. Desert winds carry people in strange directions, she said. If they bring me to you, you'll know. With a gentle tug of the reins, she turned her horse and rode toward the painted morning horizon, her silhouette blending with the rising sun. Rice stood alone in the quiet, clutching the warming canteen, realizing that the storm had taken something from him and given something back he wasn't ready to forget.